1. Inferiority Complex, feeling inadequate. An inferiority complex is characterized by persistent feelings of inadequacy, worthlessness, or a lack of self-confidence. Individuals with this complex often compare themselves unfavorably to others, believing that they are less capable, intelligent, or attractive. This can lead to overcompensation, where the person tries to prove their worth through excessive achievements, or, conversely, to withdrawal and avoidance of challenges. The concept was popularized by psychologist Alfred Adler, who believed that striving for superiority is a natural human drive. However, when individuals feel they cannot measure up to societal or personal standards, they may develop an inferiority complex, which can hinder their personal growth and lead to anxiety or depression. 2. Superiority Complex, overestimating one's abilities. A superiority complex is the opposite of an inferiority complex, where an individual has an inflated sense of their own abilities, importance, or worth. People with a superiority complex often look down on others and may display arrogance, condescension, or an exaggerated sense of self-confidence. This complex can be a defense mechanism to cover up underlying feelings of inferiority. While a superiority complex may help an individual feel more powerful or secure, it can also lead to interpersonal conflicts, as others may perceive the person as boastful or dismissive. It can also prevent the individual from acknowledging their own weaknesses or areas for improvement, limiting personal growth. 3. Oedipus Complex, desire for the opposite sex parent. The Oedipus complex is a psychoanalytic concept introduced by Sigmund Freud. It describes a child's unconscious desire for the opposite sex parent and feelings of rivalry with the same-sex parent. For example, a young boy might experience feelings of attraction toward his mother and jealousy or competition with his father. Freud believed that resolving the Oedipus complex is a crucial part of the psychosexual development process. If not resolved, it can lead to lingering issues in adult relationships, such as difficulties with authority figures or challenges in forming romantic relationships. The female counterpart to the Oedipus complex is known as the Electra complex. 4. Electra complex, female counterpart to the Oedipus complex. The Electra complex, coined by Carl Jung, is the female counterpart to Freud's Oedipus complex. It describes a girl's unconscious desire for her father and rivalry with her mother. This complex typically arises during the phallic stage of psychosexual development, between the ages of 3 and 6. According to Jung, the resolution of the Electra complex is critical for a girl's healthy development and future relationships. Unresolved feelings can lead to difficulties in forming healthy adult relationships and may manifest in issues related to authority, gender roles, or self-esteem. 5. God complex, belief in one's omnipotence. A God complex is a psychological state in which an individual believes they are omnipotent, infallible, or worthy of worship. This complex often manifests as an extreme sense of superiority and a belief that one's opinions, desires, or decisions are beyond question. People with a God complex may disregard the needs, opinions, or well-being of others, assuming that their perspective is the only correct one. While not a formal diagnosis in psychology, the God complex can be associated with narcissistic personality traits and may lead to difficulties in personal and professional relationships. The individual's overconfidence and lack of empathy can create significant conflicts and hinder collaborative efforts. 6. Persecution complex, belief in being targeted or oppressed. A persecution complex is characterized by the belief that one is being mistreated, persecuted, or victimized by others, often without justifiable reasons. Individuals with this complex may interpret neutral or benign actions as hostile or conspiratorial. This can lead to feelings of paranoia, mistrust, and social isolation. A persecution complex can result from past trauma, feelings of inadequacy, or a deep-seated fear of rejection or betrayal. It can significantly impact an individual's ability to form trusting relationships and may lead to anxiety, depression, or other mental health issues. 7. Martyr Complex, seeking validation through suffering. A martyr complex is a psychological pattern where an individual seeks to gain attention, validation, or sympathy through self-sacrifice or suffering. People with a martyr complex may go out of their way to help others, even at their own expense, and then feel unappreciated or resentful when their efforts are not recognized. This complex can lead to unhealthy relationships, where the individual consistently puts others' needs before their own, often neglecting their well-being. The martyr complex may stem from a desire for control, a need for validation, or an underlying sense of inadequacy. 8. Napoleon Complex. Overcompensation due to short stature. The Napoleon Complex, also known as the short man syndrome, is a term used to describe the behavior of individuals, typically men, who feel compelled to overcompensate for their perceived physical shortcomings, particularly short stature. This complex may manifest as aggressive, domineering, or overly ambitious behavior. The term is derived from the belief that Napoleon Bonaparte, who was of average height for his time, engaged in aggressive conquests and political maneuvers to compensate for his stature. While the Napoleon complex is not a formally recognized psychological disorder, it highlights how physical insecurities can influence behavior and social interactions. 9. Cassandra Complex. Predicting disaster, but being ignored. The Cassandra Complex is named after the mythological figure Cassandra, who was cursed to prophesy the future but never be believed. This complex describes a situation where an individual feels they are making accurate predictions or warnings about potential disasters or problems, but their concerns are dismissed or ignored by others. Individuals with a Cassandra complex may experience frustration, helplessness, or isolation as they believe they see dangers or issues that others do not recognize or take seriously. This complex can lead to feelings of despair and may contribute to anxiety or depression. 10. Guilt complex. Persistent feelings of guilt or shame. A guilt complex involves persistent and often irrational feelings of guilt or shame, even in situations where the individual is not responsible for any wrongdoing. This complex can lead to self-blame, low self-esteem, and a tendency to apologize excessively or take responsibility for others' actions. A guilt complex may stem from childhood experiences, such as being frequently blamed or punished, or from internalized moral or cultural standards that are difficult to live up to. This complex can contribute to anxiety, depression, and difficulties in forming healthy relationships. 11. Hero complex. The need to save others. A hero complex, also known as a savior complex, is characterized by a compulsive need to rescue or save others, often to feel valued or significant. Individuals with a hero complex may seek out situations where they can save someone, sometimes at their own expense or even creating situations where their help is needed. This complex can lead to codependent relationships, where the individual's sense of self-worth is tied to their ability to help others. While helping others is generally positive, a hero complex can become problematic if it leads to neglect of one's own needs or an inability to allow others to solve their own problems. 12. Peter Pan Complex. Resistance to growing up. The Peter Pan complex refers to an adult who refuses to grow up or take on adult responsibilities, often clinging to the carefree attitudes and behaviors of youth. This complex is named after the fictional character Peter Pan, who never ages and lives in a fantasy world where he remains a child forever. Individuals with a Peter Pan complex may avoid commitment, resist taking on responsibilities such as work or family obligations, and seek out activities that allow them to escape from the pressures of adult life. This complex can lead to difficulties in maintaining relationships and achieving personal and professional goals. 13. Stockholm Syndrome. Bonding with a captor. Stockholm Syndrome is a psychological response in which hostages or victims of kidnapping develop a bond or emotional attachment to their captors. This bond can lead to sympathy, support, or even loyalty to the captor, despite the danger or harm they may pose. This complex is named after a bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden in 1973, where hostages defended their captors after being released. Stockholm Syndrome is believed to be a survival mechanism, where victims align with their captors as a way to reduce the threat or secure their safety. 14. Don Juan Complex, obsessive need for romantic conquests. The Don Juan Complex, named after the legendary figure Don Juan, refers to an obsessive need for romantic conquests and validation through seduction. Individuals with this complex may pursue multiple romantic or sexual partners to affirm their desirability or self-worth. This complex often involves a fear of commitment, intimacy, or emotional vulnerability. The individual may derive self-esteem from the number of conquests rather than forming meaningful relationships. The Don Juan complex can lead to unstable relationships and emotional dissatisfaction. 15. Messiah Complex, belief in one's destiny to save others. A Messiah complex involves the belief that one is destined to be a savior or deliverer, often on a grand scale. Individuals with this complex may feel they have a unique mission to save humanity, reform society, or lead others to enlightenment. This complex can be driven by a deep need for recognition, power, or significance. While some may genuinely seek to help others, the Messiah complex can lead to unrealistic expectations, burnout, or conflicts with others who do not share the individual's vision or sense of mission. 16. Trauma complex, emotional and psychological scarring. A trauma complex develops in response to significant emotional or psychological trauma, such as abuse, neglect, or a life-threatening event. This complex can manifest as recurring thoughts, feelings, or behaviors related to the trauma, often leading to anxiety, depression, or post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Individuals with a trauma complex may struggle with trust, self-worth, or feelings of safety. They may experience flashbacks, nightmares, or intrusive thoughts related to the traumatic event. Treatment often involves therapy to process the trauma and develop coping strategies. 17. Complex of martyrdom, suffering for a cause. The complex of martyrdom involves a person believing that their suffering, sacrifice, or self-denial is necessary for a greater cause or to gain sympathy and admiration from others. This complex can lead to a sense of moral superiority and a belief that others do not understand or appreciate their sacrifices. Individuals with this complex may intentionally place themselves in difficult or painful situations to demonstrate their commitment or to elicit praise and validation. While martyrdom is sometimes associated with noble causes, it can also lead to unhealthy behaviors and strained relationships. 18. Complex of perfectionism, unrealistic standards. A perfectionism complex involves the relentless pursuit of flawlessness and an unhealthy focus on achieving perfection in every aspect of life. Individuals with this complex may set unattainably high standards for themselves and others, leading to chronic stress, frustration, and dissatisfaction. Perfectionists often struggle with self-criticism, fear of failure, and an inability to accept mistakes or imperfections. This complex can hinder creativity, productivity, and well-being, as the individual may become paralyzed by the fear of not meeting their own or others' expectations. 19. Narcissistic complex, extreme self-centeredness. A narcissistic complex is characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. Individuals with this complex may have grandiose fantasies of success, power, or beauty, and they often believe they are unique and deserving of special treatment. This complex can lead to manipulative behavior, exploitation of others, and difficulty maintaining healthy relationships. Narcissistic traits can be part of a broader personality disorder, known as narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, which requires professional treatment. 20. The Cassandra Complex, accurate predictions ignored. The Cassandra Complex describes a situation where an individual feels they are making accurate predictions or warnings about potential disasters or problems, but their concerns are dismissed or ignored by others. This complex is named after the mythological figure Cassandra, who was cursed to prophesy the future but never be believed. Individuals with a Cassandra complex may experience frustration, helplessness, or isolation, as they believe they see dangers or issues that others do not recognize or take seriously. This complex can lead to feelings of despair and may contribute to anxiety or depression. Mental complexes are deeply ingrained psychological patterns that can significantly influence a person's thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. These complexes often develop in response to specific experiences, traumas, or environmental factors and can manifest in both positive and negative ways. Understanding these complexes can provide valuable insights into the underlying causes of certain behaviors and can be an essential step toward personal growth and healing. Awareness and therapeutic intervention can help individuals manage or overcome the challenges associated with these complexes, leading to healthier and more fulfilling lives.